Alright, so Alice and the caterpillar were having this epic staring contest. Like, the kind where you wonder if someone's gonna blink or if a tumbleweed is going to roll by. Finally, the caterpillar, looking like he'd just woken up from a millennium-long nap and was hitting his vape in slow motion, pulled the hookah out of his mouth. "Yo. Who are you?" he drawled. Alice, caught off guard, stumbled. Well, it's complicated, sir. I mean, I know who I was this morning, but honestly, I've had more identity crises today than a teenager on TikTok. I've basically changed forms more times than a chameleon at a disco. The caterpillar squinted, putting on his best stern parent voice. What in the world are you even talking about? Elaborate. I can't really elaborate myself, sir, Alice confessed, feeling a bit awkward. Mostly because I'm, like, not really myself, if that makes sense. It's a whole thing. The caterpillar just blinked. I'm not seeing it. Look, I wish I could make it clearer, Alice sighed, being super polite despite the growing frustration. But even I'm drawing a blank. And let me tell you, fluctuating between skyscraper and Barbie doll heights multiple times a day? It's a real mind bender. Nah, not really. The caterpillar deadpanned. Oh, sure, Alice retorted, a hint of sass creeping in. Maybe you haven't experienced it yet. But just wait until you're forced to chill inside a chrysalis, cause, spoiler alert, that's coming, and then emerge as, like, a whole new winged creature. I bet you'll find that a little queer, then, won't you, Mr. Caterpillar? Nope. Not a single bit, he replied, utterly unfazed. Okay, well, maybe your emotional spectrum is just widely different from mine, Alice conceded with a roll of her eyes. All I'm saying is, for me, that would be seriously weird. You, the caterpillar practically scoffed. Who are you? And just like that, they were back to square one, in a conversational loop that felt like a broken record. Alice was starting to get genuinely annoyed by his one-word answers and general lack of conversational effort. She puffed herself up, channeling her inner exasperated adult, and said, "Excuse me, but I think you should introduce yourself first, sir." Why? Came the predictable, monosyllabic response. Another brainbuster. Alice had no good comeback, and the caterpillar was radiating serious do not disturb vibes. So, she did what anyone would do, she started to walk away. Hey, get back here, the caterpillar unexpectedly called out, his voice now sounding less drugged out and more urgent. I've got some important wisdom to drop. That sounded promising. Alice, ever the curious one, turned around and strolled back. Keep your chill, the caterpillar advised, as if he hadn't just been incredibly unhelpful. Is that it? Alice muttered, practically swallowing her growing rage. Nah, said the caterpillar. Alice figured she might as well stick around. It's not like she had a hot date, and maybe this weirdo would eventually drop some actual pearls of wisdom. So, she waited patiently as he puffed away on his hookah. Finally, after what felt like an eon, he uncrossed his arms, took his hookah out, and asked, "So, you're convinced you've changed, huh?" "I'm afraid so, sir," Alice sighed. "My memory's all fuzzy, and I can't even stay the same height for 10 minutes straight. It's like my body is playing a cruel game of musical chairs with my dimensions." "Can't remember what exactly?" the caterpillar asked, raising a non-existent eyebrow. "Well, I tried to recite How Doth the Little Busy Bee, but it came out all wrong." Alice lamented, her voice oozing melancholy. "All right, let's test this theory," the caterpillar declared, with the gravitas of a game show host. "Recite You Are Old, Father William." Alice, feeling like she was back in a particularly harsh classroom, clasped her hands and began. "You are old, Father William," the young man said. "And your hair has become very white. And yet you incessantly stand on your head. Do you think, at your age, it is right?" "In my youth," Father William replied to his son, "I feared it might injure the brain. But now that I'm perfectly sure I have none. Why, I do it again and again." "You are old," said the youth, "as I mentioned before, and have grown most uncommonly fat. Yet you turned a back somersault in at the door. Pray, what is the reason of that? In my youth, said the sage, as he shook his grey locks, I kept all my limbs very supple. By the use of this ointment, 1 shilling the box. Allow me to sell you a couple. You are old, said the youth, and your jaws are too weak for anything tougher than suet. Yet you finished the goose, with the bones and the beak. Pray, how did you manage to do it? In my youth, said his father, I took to the law, and argued each case with my wife. And the muscular strength, which it gave to my jaw, has lasted the rest of my life. You are old, said the youth, one would hardly suppose that your eye was as steady as ever. Yet you balanced an eel on the end of your nose. What made you so awfully clever? I have answered 3 questions, and that is enough. Said his father, don't give yourself airs. Do you think I can listen all day to such stuff? Be off, or I'll kick you downstairs. Yeah, that's not how that poem goes, the caterpillar deadpanned, looking utterly unimpressed. And not quite right, I guess, Alice stammered, feeling her cheeks flush. Some of the words got a little jumbled. Jumbled? My dear, it's completely wrong, from start to finish, the caterpillar declared with a dramatic huff. Then, of course, a tense silence descended between them, like an awkward pause in a bad Zoom call. The caterpillar eventually broke the silence, because, apparently, he was a creature of dramatic pauses, not endless ones. So, what size are you even aiming for, kid? He inquired, his tone surprisingly less judgy now. Oh, I'm not super picky about the exact measurements, Alice quickly replied, trying to sound nonchalant. It's just, you know, this constant shrinking and growing thing? It's getting a bit much. I totally don't know, the caterpillar said, with all the empathy of a brick wall. Alice just bit her tongue. She'd never in her entire life been contradicted so relentlessly. It was like her temper was a balloon and he was a pin, inching closer with every word. Are you satisfied now? The caterpillar asked, almost tauntingly. Well, I wouldn't mind being a smidge taller, sir, if that's not too much to ask, Alice stated, trying to maintain her composure. 3 inches is just not cutting it, you know? It's a shockingly low bar. A shocking low bar. My dear, 3 inches is a perfectly respectable height, the caterpillar fumed, rearing up proudly. Fun fact, he was exactly 3 inches tall. Talk about hitting a nerve. But I'm just not used to it. Alice whined, a tiny, piteous sound. In her head, she was screaming, seriously, why are all these creatures so easily offended? You'll get over it, the caterpillar mumbled, clearly over the conversation. He popped his hookah back in his mouth and started puffing away, leaving Alice to stew in her shrinking frustration. Alice, now in full Zen master mode, or at least, trying to be, waited patiently for him to grace her with his wisdom again. After a minute or 2 of his smoking session, the caterpillar finally took the hookah out, yawned like he was auditioning for a sloth movie, and gave a little shake. Then, with a casual roll off the mushroom, he crawled away into the grass, dropping a bombshell as he went, oh, by the way, one side of this mushroom will make you taller, and the other side will make you shorter. One side of what? The other side of what? Alice mentally shrieked, her internal monologue now a full-blown crisis. Of the mushroom, obviously, the caterpillar's voice echoed back, as if he'd heard her telepathic outburst. And just like that, poof! He vanished. Alice stared at the mushroom, totally stumped. It was perfectly round. How on earth do you find sides on a perfectly round object? This was like trying to find the end of a rainbow, but way more urgent. After a good minute of thoughtful contemplation, she just went for it, breaking off a piece from each side of the mushroom with both hands. Okay, which is which, she muttered to herself, feeling a bit like a mad scientist. She took a tiny nibble from the right-hand piece, hoping for the best. The next thing she knew, wham! She felt a massive thud under her chin. Her head had just collided with her foot. She was shrinking at warp speed. Okay, this was new, even for her ridiculously eventful day. Alice, realizing she was shrinking faster than her chances of a normal afternoon, immediately started munching on the other piece. Her chin was practically welded to her foot, making it super hard to even open her mouth, but she managed to get a tiny morsel of the left-hand bit down. "Yes! My head's finally free!" Alice exclaimed, her voice filled with a joy that lasted precisely 2 seconds before pure panic set in. She looked down, and her shoulders? Gone. Vanished. All she could see was an impossibly long neck, stretching up like a goofy periscope out of a sea of green leaves. What even is all this green stuff? Alice wondered aloud, thoroughly bewildered. And seriously, where did my shoulders go? Oh, and my poor hands. Why can't I see them? She waved her hands around frantically, but all it did was create a slight rustling in the distant leafy expanse below. Since getting her hands all the way up to her head was clearly a no-go, Alice tried the reverse, getting her head down to her hands. To her delight, her super-stretched neck was totally flexible, bending like a rubber band in any direction. She'd just managed a graceful, slithery zigzag down when a sharp, angry hiss made her recoil. A truly enormous pigeon had dive-bombed her face, flapping its wings like crazy. "Serpent," the pigeon shrieked, wings beating a furious rhythm. "I am not a serpent!" Alice yelled back, thoroughly offended. "Leave me alone!" "Serpent," I said, the pigeon repeated, but its voice wavered, ending in a despairing sob. "I've tried everything, and nothing seems to work for them." "Honestly, I have no idea what you're babbling about," Alice said, completely lost. "I've tried tree roots, I've tried riverbanks, I've tried hedges," the pigeon continued, completely ignoring Alice's bewilderment. "But those serpents... there's just no pleasing them." Alice was even more confused, but she figured it was pointless trying to interrupt until this feathery drama queen had finished her rant. As if hatching eggs wasn't enough of a nightmare, the pigeon continued, getting more worked up. "Now I have to be on serpent patrol day and night. I haven't slept a wink in 3 weeks, thanks to those slithery nightmares." "Oh, I'm so sorry you've been having such a tough time," Alice said, finally starting to piece together the pigeon's rather dramatic narrative. "And just when I'd finally found the tallest, most serpent-proof tree in the whole forest, the pigeon shrieked, its voice reaching ear-splitting levels, and I was just thinking I was finally free of them, they come wriggling down from the sky." Serpent." "But I am not a serpent, I told you." Alice insisted, feeling her patience fraying. "I'm a timer." "Well, what are you, then?" the pigeon challenged, cutting her off. "I can practically see you trying to invent something on the spot." "I'm a little girl," Alice stammered, even she sounded doubtful as she remembered all the bizarre transformations she'd undergone that day. "Oh, a likely story, indeed," the pigeon scoffed, its voice dripping with the deepest contempt. "I've seen my fair share of little girls in my time, but never, and I mean never, one with a neck like that. Nope, nope, nope. You're a serpent, and there's no denying it. I suppose you'll tell me next that you've never even tasted an egg, right?" "I have tasted eggs, actually," Alice said, because she was, at heart, a very truthful child. "But little girls eat eggs just as much as serpents do, you know." "I refuse to believe it," the pigeon declared, giving a dramatic head shake. "But if they do, then they're just another kind of serpent, that's all I'm saying." This was such a wild, new concept to Alice that it actually silenced her for a minute or two. The pigeon, seizing its opportunity, added, "You're clearly looking for eggs, I know that much. And honestly, what difference does it make to me whether you're a little girl or a serpent?" "It makes a huge difference to me," Alice retorted, feeling a fresh wave of irritation. "And just so you know, I'm not looking for eggs, as it happens. But even if I were, I definitely wouldn't want yours, I don't like them raw." "Fine, just scram then," the pigeon grumbled, huffing as it settled back into its nest. Alice, still grappling with her ridiculously long neck, managed to crouch down among the trees as best she could. Her neck kept getting snagged on branches, forcing her to stop and untangle herself every few seconds. Then, she remembered the mushroom pieces still clutched in her hands. Very carefully, she started nibbling, first one side, then the other, growing sometimes taller, sometimes shorter, until, finally, she was back to her good old, perfectly normal height. It had been so long since she'd actually been the right size that it felt super weird at first. But a few minutes later, she adjusted, started muttering to herself, as usual. Okay, so half my master plan is complete. Seriously, these size changes are completely bonkers. I have no clue what I'm going to be from 1 minute to the next. Anyway, I'm back to normal size. Next mission, get into that super fancy garden. How in the world am I going to pull that off? Just as she was pondering this monumental question, she stumbled upon an open clearing with a tiny house, barely 4 feet high. Whoever lives there, Alice thought, I definitely can't just waltz in at this size. I'd scare them out of their tiny little wits. So, she started nibbling on the right-hand mushroom bit again, shrinking herself down until she was a mere 9 inches tall, before daring to approach the miniature dwelling.